baldness thing. I'm just gonna when it gets to a certain point, it's coming off, and I'll go your beard route or whatever.
Dude, and then have a salt and pepper beard.
Oh yeah, dude. I mean, it's a good look, man. So, yeah, man.
Do it. Let's do it.
I did. We're good, I think.
Oh.
Yeah, I just clicked it on as we were talking about shaving our heads and beards and stuff.
Beard.
So figured, yeah, mid conversation, we'll jump right in. 5 minutes or so, we'll get going.
I mean, basically, since you've known me, I've had a beard, and like first met me, I think I would always do the 5 o'clock shadow, but then that ended pretty quickly. So it's been like 8 years. And I think like 4 years ago, I was with relatives, and they were like, "Oh, so you just started like growing out that beard thing, like you're doing the hippie thing." And I'm like, "Oh God, no, I've had it for a long time now."
Yeah, dude, you get a beard like your size, and you get like one of like a handful of things. You're either like a hippie, a redneck, or just scary. I like my neck warm, man.
Listen, I used to live in Pennsylvania. Now I live in Florida. I'm always prepared in case I have to go home. I was in Boy Scouts or Cub Scouts, something like that.
Right, always be prepared.
Dude, I found pictures of me in my Cub Scouts uniform the other day. Hilarious.
Yeah, Little Rock.
Did I send you the picture of me with the saxophone?
No.
Oh, God. Ron Swanson. Hold on.
Duke Silver.
I got to find it in 4 minutes.
Yeah, you're good. We're fine. But, no, dude, I mean, I was like, as soon as I was able to grow a beard, I pretty much never, dude, shaving sucks. And I have really like baby skin. So like when I shave, I just break out in this horrible rash. So it looks ridiculous anyway.
I'm the same way. And when you're like 14, you can have a beard, you're the only one that can buy tobacco. So it's awesome.
I just got it. Wow.
Duke Silver.
It really is. I have no other words. First of all, I love the fact that it's actually in like a photo album. Like, how often do you see one of those?
That's telling our age.
Right?
Dude,
so we were having this conversation the other day about like things that like kids like wouldn't like realize today. And like to me, the biggest one is like, like the save button on like a computer, it's a floppy disk.
Right.
Kids today have no idea what the hell a floppy disk is. They're just like, oh, it's just the save button. It's like, no, you actually had to like put that into a computer to like save whatever you were doing.
Right. Did we, when I was in, I probably shouldn't even say this because of the live, so I'll just ignore. I just won't. But, dude, yes. There's so much stuff like that just changed like that. Like I remember being in like high school and like literally having to like go to the computer lab. Everyone had to try and figure out how to like type out a paper. And then you were given a floppy disk to like put it on to give it to the teacher. And like no one could get it right.
No. Like it was like 50-50 shot. Half of you got it right, half of you destroyed everything that you just did.
On the chalkboard, not whiteboard, on the chalkboard, it just said save every 5 minutes or something like that. Like, dude, I'll still go on like Google Docs and look for like the save button. And I'm like, oh no, it just
does it for me. I remember, oh God, it must have been 2nd or 3rd grade, and it was like a huge deal when like our computer lab got like the new Macs, and they were like those little orange cube type things. Like they look like bubble gum almost, like, but in like computer form. And it was like the biggest deal in the world. And they had like the weird mouse because it didn't have left click, right click. It just like clicked the whole mouse or whatever. Yeah. And it was like the craziest thing. But yeah, man.
Pretty sure my high school still doesn't.
We're getting old. It doesn't even have everything's tan.
Do you remember when you were trying to get on the internet and it was like
yeah, man.
Dude, I used to get on Google and look up pictures of Dragon Ball Z and hit like enter, and then I'd like go outside and play for like 4 or 5 hours and come back and there'd be like 10 Google images downloaded finally. I'm like, yes.
All right, man. It's 8 o'clock. I hope this is working. I'm assuming it's working. If by any chance there's anyone actually watching and you have my phone number and it's not working, shoot me a text. This is or Rocco. This is a pure test run, trial by fire. But welcome to the first Racco Strength and Fitness live feed. I'm here with my good buddy, Dr. Rocco Crapis. God, I've known you since 2012, 11, something like that. Met you down in Marietta, and just kind of hit it off. And here we sit. So Thank you for coming on, man. Welcome. Hopefully this goes nicely. We make this a thing, and yeah, man. So basically, you're here because I've been doing my thing on YouTube for a little bit, whether that be talking about training or specific exercises or different body parts and like their anatomy and how they function and how to train those specific muscles, blah blah blah. The reason why I wanted to bring you on here is just to offer a different kind of perspective, not necessarily having to do with strength and fitness, but maybe health, wellness, really wherever you want to take this. So I'll kind of give you the floor. If there's anything particular you want to talk about, we can kind of go back and forth a little bit and just see where it goes, man.
Yeah, no, I like it. I think there's a few things I think we need to lay the ground and foundation for before we continue, doing a few other podcasts from here on out or whatever this is called. I'm glad I just have a computer. But
to start, yeah.
I think one of the big things that everybody needs to know is everything works until it doesn't, right? And then what? Like, what are you going to fall back on? What are you going to do? Like, even being a strong man, right? Being one of the strongest men in the world works until it doesn't, until you get hurt, And so I think the basis of things that need to be covered is that health is defined very simply, and I think especially now we're really craving that definition and need to understand it as a society. And health is your ability to adapt. What to? A force of any kind, whether that's physical, mental, emotional, whatever that is, that force, whether it be a virus or a bacteria or stepping off of the ledge the wrong way when you're 90 years old or picking up a pot from underneath the cabinet or anything, that force, your body needs to be able to take that force in and then process it in a constructive fashion to make you stronger. So the force is going to do one or two things. It's either going to make you stronger as a human and increase your potential, or it's going to weaken you as a human. We have a continuum that we're on. So you need to make sure that everything we're doing is taking steps in that direction towards health, which is the adaptability continuum, which is making us stronger. So with that foundation laid, I think we can really dive into more things on how to do things or just what that means even more, right? Like what animates that? How do we know if we're healthy or we're...
Absolutely, man. I think in one of my very first videos, I was kind of describing like my process of why I focus not solely, but pretty exclusively on, why I think strength is such an important part of, exercise and building ourselves. And you hit the nail on the head when you just said that, it's in, taking in force and then, your body has to interpret it in one way or the other, whether you take it and roll with it and adapt with it, or it injures you. And that's where it kind of ties into, one of my biggest things on preaching, strength training is not that everyone wants to be, the biggest, strongest, person in the room. Like no one needs to deadlift 500, 600, 700 pounds. Some of you may want to, and I can completely understand that line of view.
We were there at one point.
But no one needs to. And the whole purpose of making yourself stronger is so that you have these, these external forces, whether it be, a car crash or, you step off a curb the wrong direction or, someone bumps you accidentally. And obviously those are three very different things, but it's still an external force acting on your body. And the stronger you are, the better you're able to, deal with that force. Now, I'm not saying that you're going to be able to, stop a moving car ever, but you get hit, rear-ended by a car, and if you're a stronger person, you're able to absorb that impact, deal with it a little bit better than if you were a weaker person, where it might, really cause some sort of significant injury.
Not only that, the recovery then, right? So let's say that you do undertake something like that, God forbid, and you have to then, now the body has to recover, right? Because let's say that force is something we couldn't handle. Well, now our ability to recover, we're at a different playing field than someone who doesn't do that, right?
Absolutely.
So, I mean, this can literally go into every aspect of our lives. And so it's easy to talk in the world of training because I think people understand that. And so I think that that's, the foremost level, but I think we have to understand, and where my level of expertise is a lot, is the neurological system in the brain and the spine. So we know brain, spine control literally every function of our body. Your brain and spine are going to do everything to protect themselves first. They don't care about your pinky or your forearm or whatever. Their main job is to take care of themselves and make them strong. Yeah, right. So when you take a force in, and I think when we talk about force, a lot of people think, all right, maybe a negative force. But let's talk about a couple forces you encounter just during the day, right? So your alarm goes off, and that's a force, right? Your body has to go, oh my goodness, now I step on the ground, and now all of a sudden the floor, because it's hardwood floors, is a different temperature than the bed I was in. So in hundredth of a millisecond, my body perceives this change in the floor and writes and corrects and sends tons of molecular things to start happening, cascades of events, without me even knowing about it. Then I walk and turn the light on. And with hundreds of a milliseconds, my body starts to change my eyes immediately because now I have lights on and I didn't, it was dark. Then let's say I touch the dog, right? Well, now I'm touching something that I wasn't touching before. My body perceives that in hundreds of a millisecond. Then I walk outside, the temperature changes, the wind blows. My body has to respond to these all day long, not to mention, we're not even going to get into the phone on this one. I think we need to have a whole
that's a whole other hour.
Yeah, or 7. But the whole, your body's constantly adapting to all of these forces all day long. So you may think, well, I don't train, or well, I'm not going to ever go for a run or whatever. But at some point in your life, you're going to, right? Your body's adapt, not necessarily go for a run, but at some point you're going to adapt to stressors that are happening in your life all day long. Mm-hmm. Whether it's, let's say you live in New York or Pennsylvania, and it's 90 during the day and 60 degrees at night, your body has to respond to that, right? So those responses all come and go through the nervous system. And so I think one of the biggest fundamental things, because we were talking about training, so let's just, I guess, stick with that aspect.
Well, if I can interject for a second. So it's fine. Like, let's totally take your path. Let's dive into the neurological for a little bit. But like what I'm hearing you say, so the body is constantly taking in stimulus, whether that be, in my traditional, or maybe what everyone views as the traditional sense of training and adaptation of, picking up something heavy, moving it around a couple times and then recovering. But, that's not necessarily everything that our body has to interpret in order to change, in order to adapt. I mean, you're talking about different temperatures, different textures, different, levels of, space, petting animals, that kind of stuff. All that stuff gets interpreted, internalized, and, used for your body to now change, adapt, assess the particular situation you're in, and then move forward.
Yep.
Okay, awesome.
Live. I mean, we have on our skin right now. I mean, today we live in a society where it's like we want to wash and sanitize and kill everything, but we have, before this, millions of different bacteria on our skin right now that are literally trying to eat you. And then you have billions of healthy ones that are fighting it off. And you never have to think about that for 1 second. So the body's on it, right? Nature is on it. Nature always wins. That's important. And to tie the neurology kind of back into the training like we were talking, so let's say we all agree that the brain talks to the spinal cord talks to the muscles, and so on and so forth, and back through, right?
Agreed.
So you talk something, the signal goes up and into the brain, right? No one's going to disagree with that. So with that being said, we have 4 layers of muscles in 2 places in our body. One's our back, and the other's the bottom of our feet. So nature, however you believe we were designed, let's say God or evolution, because they both created them, whatever this is, decided that your feet and your back are 2 of the most important places in your entire body. So does it not stand to reason that we need to make those very, very strong first? Because if I do this, and I pick up this pen, or if I try and catch this pen, right? If I do that, if I can catch it, right? Catch the pen. Or if I go to write, my body sends a signal, my hand, right? Sends a signal to the brain. Brain sends a signal all the way down my spine to, before I write, to stabilize my spine and my neurological structure. So if my brain knows that that's the first thing that needs to stabilize before I can write something on a piece of paper with a pen, talk about force, now you're creating the force, right? But you have to adapt to that too. You need to learn how to train the brain and spinal cord as a unit before we even consider potentially starting to train biceps or chest or whatever, right? And the same with the feet. And I was guilty of this for the longest time, right? And I didn't know how, and people don't talk about that because it's not sexy, right?
Yeah.
Training the tiny little muscles of your spine might not make you look the best on the beach because it's going to take longer, right? But if you focus on that area first and you make that strong, well, if writing with a pen makes me stabilize my spine, what do you think is going to get stabilized first if I'm trying to deadlift 500 pounds? And if I never took the time to make that hygienically strong and be able to absorb force, what do you think happens? Vertebra fracture, discs rupture, things herniate, right? The joint spaces get smaller, the discs start to shrink, you can't compress and handle the load.
No, it's just like an overall degeneration, basically.
Yeah.
You don't take care of it. Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, it's the oldest cliche in the book. You don't use it, you lose it, basically. And I know it, sounds childish, and you've heard it 1,000 times, but it's the most true thing in nature.
Well, so here's a perfect example of you don't use it, you lose it. Don't quote me on the times because it's been a long time since I read this. But we shoot astronauts up into space. We have to put them in a harness.
I already know where you're going with this, yeah.
Yeah, right? They have to run. Because we've talked about this however many times, right? You have to run and then mimic gravity. Because I believe it's within 72 hours of being in space without mimicking gravity, your body is so intelligent without you thinking about it, it will start to remove your bones. It'll just start to go away because your body makes an executive decision in hundreds of a milliseconds all day long. And if you continually give it something like no gravity, it's going to say, I don't need any of these bones.
I don't need to keep putting energy into regenerating bones. So it's essentially it's trying to save itself.
Right.
In the long run, it's going to kill you if you stay up there too long.
Right.
But it doesn't know that because of the exact situation that you're in. Yeah, no, it's fascinating.
I mean, we have this, and that force, that animating intelligence that's governing all is the same thing that heals us. It's the same thing that makes us stronger. It's the same thing that when you do a bicep curl and you tear your muscles, rebuilds them without you thinking. You don't go home and go, all right, I'm drinking this protein. I hope I break these down right. And
I'm going to build some muscle.
Right. You never have to think about that. So I think that's such a missing link in health these days because everybody wants to talk about the end result, the macro expression, right? Like, well, my biceps.
That's all we care about is, I want to be here and I want to be here now.
Right. Right. No one wants to put the time in. And that's, look, you're not where you're at now without putting time in. I know what time you wake up every morning. I'm not where I'm at now without putting time in. But everybody wants that quick end result. But the real change, and I explain this to my patients a lot too, is you can change the macro, like the overarching thing. So let's say someone has diabetes, right? And they come into a doctor, and the doctor's like, all right, you have diabetes. Here's a medication. Take the medication. They're trying to change the expression of that disease by giving you the medication. So they're trying to make the appearance of that disease and the symptomology of it go away. Okay?
Sure.
So they're changing the macro expression of it. Mm-hmm. But if we look at the micro, the tiny little details, and we change that, if you change the micro expression, the smallest thing, everything changes. So what if we take that person and we go, oh my God, you drink 12 Cokes a day. Let's not drink those 12 Cokes. And I'm oversimplifying this, but you'll sure. Understand the main message.
For the sake of your argument, yes.
For the sake of the argument, right? You change the micro expression of the Cokes, and then the macro expression has no choice but to change. Whether for good or bad, it has no choice but to change. It's always the micro expression. Health is not complex. Health is very simple. Training is not complex. Training is very simple. We make it that way because we need to make money off of you. Let's just call it what it is.
No, it's true.
There's the principles that animate the living world because there's physical laws that we have to abide by. There's metaphysical laws and there's quantum physics laws and, universal laws we have to abide by. And not that everybody should go look at those, but I suggest you should, because we need to abide.
Time travel episode will be a few ones down the road, but it's just
it'll be fun. That already happened.
I might need 2 or 3 whiskeys before we start that one. But,
these are blueberry mojitos because I'm fancy.
That is very fancy.
And but you change that micro, and the macro expression has to change. So instead of trying to do that, let's talk about changing the micro. So you change the micro expression of the spine by training the proper dynamics. So let's just throw out, which I know who you're familiar, one of my best friends, Tommy John, right? Go look up, if you guys are listening, his Supermans, or maybe you should do a video of it sometime, right?
Cross Supermans, do them every week.
There you go, right? So you do these cross-crawl Supermans, not only do you train the brain, you train all the tiny muscles of the spine, and you make your back and brain and spine all integrate, connect, move, flow, and do the right thing. Well, let's just say you're 12, and you do that till you're 70. I'd love to do this research experiment. You do 50 of them a day until you're 70, right? Well, what's that 70-year-old spine look like as opposed to the person who didn't do those things to take care of the spine first? They wanted to look better. They wanted to deadlift or whatever. The degeneration sets in because they're focused on the macro instead of the micro. Now, you get the micro set, well, let's start doing the macro stuff. Nothing wrong with that. I love bench squat and deadlift. They're my 3 favorite exercises to do. But I don't do them until I finish my lunge holds and my shoulder holds and my spinal hygiene and my calf holds and all those things to communicate and stabilize the system to handle the force that I'm about to put it through. That makes sense.
No, it does. And that's actually interesting because I've always been a big preacher when it comes to training of working big to small, work your big lifts, work your way down to the small stuff. So in my personal training, I do the same stuff that you do, since Tommy John has, showed it to us and all that stuff, it has helped me incredibly with, the low back issues that I've had and blah, 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 et cetera. I've always done them at the end. But it's interesting, and like the way you talk about it and speak about it, it almost makes sense. Not that I'm saying I jump right into a set of deadlifting without, warming up or doing any sort of mobility or something like that. But it's definitely how you describe it, working on, the micro to get to the macro. You may have actually changed my mind here. I might actually start doing it first.
Well, so there's 2 things there that, just to play devil's advocate, is then
Sure.
What you could do is I would, and I do this frequently too, is I may do, let's say, and remember, anyone who's listening, we do these consistently. We're not talking one time. So we've built this foundation that I'm talking about of the body's ability to adapt to a force, right? So know that we're talking about that. But let's say I'm doing legs. So I'm going to do the lunge hold you're aware of, right? And then I'm going to hammer out, a couple hundred hip circles or whatever. Then I'll go do my my squats.
Sure.
Maybe then I finish with spinal hygiene,
okay.
Right? Tom talks a lot about finishing with spinal hygiene to lock it into the neurology. Mm-hmm. But you also have to innately, which you have to feel for yourself. There's some days where I'm like, I think I need a little more preparation to handle what I'm about to do.
Sure.
So then I will do that first. And I like that idea a little bit better. And to call a spade, when I'm done doing my squats, I'm pretty tired going and doing the spinal hygiene stuff. Not necessarily exactly what I want to do. So it works in the favor to build that system up first to get it ready to handle what you're about to do. Now, on the flip side of that, if you do this on a regular basis and you stabilize and you build and you create a foundation that can handle force of any kind, in this particular one, we're simply talking about training and weights, right?
Sure. Yeah.
If you develop that, you should be able to walk up to a deadlift bar, boom, no warm up and go, right? Because if we look at this, neurology, again, right, and the way the brain works and the way the brain has been designed forever, and we can have a whole other podcast about long distance running, and please don't get offended. I tell you that your slow, sustained long distance running is killing you, but it's killing you. So,
I knew I didn't like it for a reason.
Right. Or the fact that I always had whatever. But,
or I was just bad at it, but yeah.
So now I got the perfect excuse not to do it because it kills you. But so that's going to boost the followers, but that's okay.
I'm not trying to get runners anyway.
If your body can absorb force, by all means, run all the time. that's fine. If you do the proper training, run every day, 30, 40 miles. But if we're talking about the human anatomy in the body, let's say you train and train and train for this marathon. You run the marathon, you're good. You take a month off. Well, you're almost back at square one. Like, yeah, you've made some headway, but your body's decreasing its output by at least 50 to 70%, and you have to rebuild. God forbid you take 2 or 3 months off, right? So that's cardiovascular endurance, right? It takes a long, not that it takes a long time to build, we can talk about that too, but you lose it, let's say it this way, cardiovascular endurance, you lose it quickly. The body doesn't find a need to keep it in the system. Now, strength, speed, fast twitch, bursts, things like that, you can train. We can do bench press. You could get up to 250 pounds because the bench press is a very explosive movement if done correctly. So you get up to 250 pounds and you take a month off. Maybe you're 220, 230. Within a week, you're back up to 240, 250, pending you just took time off. The body memorizes at a cellular level the burst, the quick, that explosive energy of the sustain of the training, and doesn't memorize at a cellular level what it's created with the endurance, because you can build it very quickly and you don't need it. Now that goes way, 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 way back to our ancestry when you needed to hunt, you needed fast, you needed to be able to move, you needed to do what you did. You just walked all day until it was time to go. And then you went. Right, which is why we look, perfect example today, and again, we can talk about this, another one is fear. Our brains are literally conditioned to look for things that are not good, unfortunately, the bad, because, there was a time where we lived around a campfire and you needed to pay attention to wolves or panthers or whatever. Well, listen, if the wolf or panther's coming, those people didn't say, give me 5, let me warm up my
I got to stretch, hold on.
Right. And then let me run or whatever I need to do. Whoops, I don't know what happened there. We still here? Good.
Yeah, I can see it. We're good, I think. Yeah.
So
someone let me know.
It never said hey, I got to warm up. Their bodies went because they were active all day, every day. They moved like crazy. Their bodies knew how to respond to force. So it did it. So if you train in this realm we're talking about in this way, your brain should be able to turn it on and go. Because look, when you're 70 years old, and because you don't live in beautiful Florida where it's gorgeous all the time, and you walk outside of your house and you hit a patch of ice at 70, 75, and you go and you grab the railing, well, you didn't have time to warm up for the patch of ice, right? You got to grab that railing, and my God, I hope you trained the right way, or we're talking wrist out of place, elbow out of place. Now we need shoulder surgery, and my God, if you fall, now you need your hip replaced, and it's black and blue, and you can't walk, all because you couldn't warm up. Give me a break. The body's designed to respond, and it's your job to train it to respond to that force immediately. So I would say, if you train consistently and regularly over the course of time, you'll build this ability to adapt. You can walk right in the gym and boom, hammer out a 500-pound deadlift, no problem, because the body's conditioned to handle that force. Now that makes sense?
No, I do. I mean, I see where you're going and I understand it. Now, the only thing I would just tack on there is I wouldn't recommend it necessarily. Because look, having the body's ability to do that is one thing. And just because you can do something doesn't necessarily mean you should. And not that I'm trying to rain on your parade or anything. I just feel like there are some people out there who need to hear that.
It probably is, right? And that's why I think I should overemphasize the fact that if you've trained properly,
exactly,
you've done it properly for years and years and years, you're basically, look, we got a savings account for our finances. Well, you better have a savings account for your muscles, right? And your training, and then you want one for your diet because you want to be able to do things. So every training session, you're either putting money into that savings account or you're taking money out. Now, maybe what I'm saying, and again, maybe because we're talking, say, in a theory here, if I walk in and I just, boom, deadlift 500 pounds without warming up, maybe I took a couple dollars out of my savings account that time.
Sure.
Well, I put $30,000 into it because the last 10 years I've done the proper thing. So that $10 is fine. It's no big deal. And now let's say you slip on the ice at 75. Cancel, because I don't want a phone call at 75 if you slipped on ice. But let's say that happens. Well, you take $1 out. Well, by the time you're 70, you put $250,000 in. No big deal if you took the dollar out. You just mosey on about your day. right? And because we're taking these dollars in and out all day, whether we want to or not, right? Your daughter jumps and steps on your foot, you fall over top of her and catch yourself. Like, they're happening all the time. There's a constant exchange in this bank account. But you better make sure that the time you decide to train is set for training and that you're putting money in, not taking it out, which is my whole point of the body's ability to absorb force, which is, again, why someone like you comes in to such an important role in why I consult you and my wife does and all of this stuff, because you want somebody who will understand where you're at, where you're trying to go, and how to get you there so that every workout you're putting money in the bank, right? We can use CrossFit for an example. You are not putting money in the bank. CrossFit, let's just call it what it is. Or else
you're not that you're like a big fan, but you've trained that way. You've got friends in there, so it's not like we're just picking on CrossFit. We're just using an example of calling a spade here.
Yeah. I have friends. I have friends in that world. I've worked on people in that world. I trained in that world for a little bit, more of a minute amount of time, because I saw what it was doing. But I think that's also, now that we brought that up, I think it's important. Sure. Don't just take what Len and I say because we said it and we're educated people and, we've lived it, which maybe you should, because we'll save you a whole lot of time. But
it can help influence your decision.
Right. You have to figure it out for yourself. Go do it. But look at people that have done it for a long time, whatever that may be. Like,
they don't hold up.
They don't hold up. It just doesn't, right? And that should be the same with your diet or anything. Constantly be looking for ways to adapt and to change. And now if the person doesn't hold up and they don't look like the way you want to look years later and they don't function well, maybe they do today, but you really have to analyze what it looks like internally, what the injuries look like. Because if you're an athlete and you're getting injured, you're not strong enough, period. They don't want to hear it. And I'm going to tell you right now, NFL players, right? Let's use NFL.
Sure.
They get injured all the time. Okay. Their training is garbage. It's garbage. If any NFL players happen to come across this podcast, my God, call Leonard Tommy. Like, training is terrible because you can't even absorb the force of playing the game. I understand. I did not play in the NFL. I get it. Played pretty high level collegiate. That's fine. But my body could not have handled the force because of how I was training. I broke my back playing college football. So I know the training's bad, and I see it every year. And all of these athletes, they're training with all these trainers that want to throw random things at you and do this and that.
Oh, if we're gonna hop on this, then this is gonna lead me. And I'll let you get back to your point in a second. But this is gonna take me down the social media, Instagram, fitness wormhole. That again could be another. We could do like an entire straight week on. But the flashy, I'm standing on a ball doing a squat while balancing a cup of water on my nose and spinning around 3 times. Like, it's ridiculous. Right. Has nothing to do with football.
No. Also, meanwhile, that person can't hold a lunge hold for a minute, or can't stand on his one calf for a minute, or he can't lift a leg in front of him for a minute.
Yeah.
But we're making him do all that. We're taking him so far advanced where he actually is, or he can't do 5 minutes of Supermans without stopping. Come on. If you're in the NFL, that should be the baseline. Like, you shouldn't even be allowed in if you can't do that, right? I mean,
sorry, take it on down the road, man. We don't want you here.
Right. NFL players, hockey players, arguably, you have
professional athletes. Professional athletes.
Arguably supposed to be the best athletes in the world, but they're getting injured all the time. So you should look at that and say, something's not right here.
Yeah. No, you can't keep doing the same thing over and over and keep expecting something different to happen. Now, I completely understand football is a traumatic sport. I mean,
of course.
Yeah, I mean, it's ridiculous. And, freak things happen and you're going to break bones and whatever. Like, yes. But you're right. I mean, look, I'll even hear. I'll take. So I think this might even be maybe a better example, and because it happened very recently, and it's with baseball, which is not as traumatic of a sport. The last season, the last full 2019 season last year, the Yankees lost for at least some point throughout the year or throughout the whole year, lost every single one of their starters for a period of time due to injury. This is baseball. You're not running into anyone. You're not picking up heavy weights. You're swinging a bat. You're running a couple sprints. You're catching a ball. Like
I'm just going to flat out say
that needs a hard look at your training if that's what's occurring to arguably the elite of elite in professional teams.
Right. And what message does that now send our youth? Because let's say, I don't know a single baseball player's name, so I can't help you out there, but let's just say
who's never your sport.
It's not mine, but hey, I love Tommy, so it's good, right? Yeah. But let's just say that guy's posting his workouts. Well, what on earth do you think the 12-year-old's going to do? He's going to do that workout because he wants the end result, which is hopefully to get to the major leagues.
Sure.
But he's going to destroy his body because even that guy is the professional athlete. He's just taking the advice of the trainer who most likely took the advice of the educational system, which
or is probably like his buddy growing up who lifts some weights and is just like, oh yeah, I could train you. Give me a job.
Right.
But here's something, and I just want to toss this in really quick because you went to the 12-year-old who saw this on social media and then wants to mimic because, well, if my favorite professional athlete's doing this, then I should do this to get to, again, the end result. And I saw this, and I forget who posted it or said it or whatever, but it was a very short post, but it makes you think. And it was, and I think it was with I don't know. Do you know Alvin Kamara, running back for the Saints?
One of my friends on here is a huge Saints fan, so I at least know of him.
Okay, good. Freak athlete, and he was doing, I forget what exactly it was, but it was one of those standing on an unstable surface, catching balls, pressing something, ridiculous. And so the trainer, not his trainer, but one of the the coach's trainers that I follow was just like, we need to take a step back and look and see is his ability to do this is that what translates onto the field and allows him to be a freak of nature on the field, or is it because he's a freak of nature that he's able to do this ridiculous training style? And I think that right there, that simple question is huge. Because not everyone can do this specific training style that he does because he is a freak athlete and probably, your average Joe schmo who's, walking into the gym and wants to, shave 10 pounds. There's no reason for you to mimic or do this. Or if you're a kid who's just trying to learn how to, pick up a weight with proper form, there's no way that you should be working on an unstable surface while catching something and pressing something and, balancing something. It's ridiculous. Anyway.
So I think, two things I would say is one, of course, it's showmanship, right? I think a lot of people don't understand that training's not necessarily meant to be fun. Training's meant
just to make you better. That's it. Sorry, this is the last time I'm going to cut you off. But training, I tell people when I've talked to clients and, even back when I was working in a gym and, trying to sell personal training to people, one of the first things I tell them is, look, I am not a clown. It is not my job to entertain you. It's my job to get you closer to your goal. And we are not going to have wildly different workouts every time you come in here. We're not going to be jumping over things, hopping over things, spinning, burpeeing, whatever. We're going to pick a few key movements that I think you need to work on. We're going to get good at those movements, and then hopefully we're going to get stronger and progress you towards a goal. And once we master these key movements, then we can start to deviate to something that might be a little more challenging. But again, it's still going to fall in the realm of those key movements.
Right. I think it's important too because it's what you're saying. You're going to pay somebody to make you really tired in a fun way. Give me a break. Just go. Do something 5,000 times.
Go take a class. Do some jumping jacks.
Yeah, just do 5,000 jumping jacks today or 5,000 calf jumps. You'll be really, really tired, and it'll be one of the best workouts of your life. Just do that. Don't pay someone money for that.
You'll save $50. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I would it's actually very interesting. I would like to hire a trainer in person because the days of me and you being able to work out together are very long gone because we're on opposite ends of this country, right? I would never hire somebody that didn't show me a 12-month plan without me having to tell them. Sure. What are we doing? How are we progressing? And if it was fun, I probably wouldn't hire you, because training, again, is not meant to be fun, but
it's practice. You're practicing. You're practicing movements to get better.
Yes, to become strong. And in that, it might not be fun. It might be, do you remember doing the wall squats for 5 minutes? Remember it would take up like 40 minutes? Or the lunge hold for
remember like the first like 2 or 3 days, like the 5 minute, it would take us like 30 minutes to get through. It was terrible.
Yeah, it was terrible. And then it was like, what, I'm supposed to do a lunge hold after this? Oh my God. Our 2-hour workouts were 2 exercises. A squat hold and a lunge hold on each leg for 5 minutes. But say whatever you want, I became a lot stronger doing that. It was not fun. I did not look forward to going. I dreaded it. Every day I would try and come up with another excuse why not to go.
I lost my headphones in the car. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.
So developing that ability, and I don't know, there's probably something else we were going to cover in there too, but I think understanding that is very important too, because I see a lot. Oh, Kamara. So I would make the argument with him is, well, yeah, you're a freak athlete. That's fine. But was he not injured last year?
He was.
So your training didn't work. Call it what it is. It didn't work. Period. Like, unless we're talking about, again, because it's football and it's a high impact, high contact sport, we're talking about a concussion or a blown out knee or whatever. And I would even make the argument then that whatever, we won't get that far. But you're having
it's day one.
yeah. You're having any car accidents, so I understand that. But if we're talking hamstrings, quads, pulled this, pulled that, torn this, the majority of those are happening because of your training, not because of the contact. How many times do you see it happen in the NFL? All the time, where it's not contact. When I ruptured my Achilles, you were there when I ruptured my Achilles. Were you not? No one touched me. I ran a dig route, turned around, sounded like a shotgun went off, and I fell to the ground. No one touched me.
I do remember that.
My body at that time was not strong enough to handle force. I looked like a Lamborghini and had a moped engine. Period. I have no problem admitting that. Or else I wouldn't have ruptured my Achilles running a dig route and flag football practice. Come on.
Yeah.
You just don't do that. You see it all the time. Player running down the field pulls up because of his hamstring. Your training is at fault. Period. And or the brain and neurology connection, which should be incorporated into the training, but a whole nother day for that.
Do you want to just like touch on that like a little bit? Because I think when most people think training, they think muscles, they think weights, they think running. So when you talk about, the neurology part or the neurology aspect of training, just, you don't have to go like into it, but just touch on what you're talking about.
Yeah. So there's 2 things. Remind me to talk about stretching too, if you don't mind.
Sure.
I want to touch on that too. So
we got time.
All right. So we're going to go into stretching first because this is important. Then it leads into neurology. First off, your muscles don't stretch. So we should have that conversation.
So I actually made my own video. It's actually on my channel. Those of you out there, go take a look. About stretching and why I don't do it. So go.
All right. So don't do it because your muscles don't stretch. So your muscle, and I'll show everybody on here, is so if you go like this, your muscle, this is a concentric contraction. This is an eccentric contraction of that bicep, right?
That's it.
That's it. Period. There's no stretching anywhere. So when you stretch, you lengthen the ligaments and tendons that don't have direct blood supply, and you make them loose. Now, when I do this, my tendons and ligaments need to be able to react very quickly. And if they're loose, that's what happens. And the muscle can't be as strong, and then that's when injury sets in because you spent all this time stretching because you've been told a long muscle is a strong muscle. Sure, in physics, a long muscle is a strong muscle.
Well, here's the thing: muscles
how
don't.
How much longer has anyone ever made their bicep?
What's that? Sorry,
I said, how much longer has anybody ever made their bicep?
Well, so here's the thing: is now, and I'm just gonna like quote parrot right from like my video, and I've said this a billion different times. every single muscle in your body has something called an origin, where it begins, and an insertion, where it ends. And those points don't change. Like, they're fixed. So it's physically impossible to make your muscle longer because they have a fixed start and end. Yep. So when you're like, and just like you said, when you're stretching and you're trying to do whatever it is you're trying to do when you stretch, I guess lengthen your muscles, it's impossible. You can't lengthen muscle because they have a fixed start and fixed finish. Now, someone may say, Len, why then, can I not straighten my leg all the way? My hamstrings are tight. And again, this is probably going to segue into something completely different where we didn't want to go. But that's why we're doing this, right? We're going to start somewhere and we're going to dive down this rabbit hole and keep going.
This is perfect. Let me go here. This is going to segue right into the neurology. Perfect. So the reason your hamstring is tight is a couple reasons. Because your brain and spine, let's consider them one basic cohesive unit, have decided that you're not strong enough for your body to move past that range of motion. It has made an executive decision and said, don't go any farther. Something's not right. It's trying to heal you. So then you grab it and you pull it and you stretch and you go, oh, I feel better. Again, you're taking money out of the bank account at that point. Something's not right. Now, how to fix this problem, we can talk about in a completely different video. Or you have some miscommunication with the nerves that integrate into that hamstring, somewhere along the chain to the spinal cord, somewhere along the chain to the brain. I see it all the time. Take care of someone's brain, take care of someone's spine, get it communicating and functioning and vibrating correctly. You take care of the peripheral nervous system that branches off of that goes directly to, let's say, said hamstring. Now the hamstring all of a sudden can move and function perfectly pain-free. It locked down somewhere because it needed to save itself for whatever reason, right? It's a backup safety mechanism. People, if your body, listen, if your head turns to the right like this and only goes this far to the left, spending time trying to make it go farther to the left is not the answer. Going to a chiropractor that's going to rotate your head and slam that bone into another direction so you can turn to the left is not the answer because he decided that that's what your neck should do. Or just boom, right? That's not the answer because your body, your intelligence inside is telling you something's wrong. I'm not strong enough to move through this. Now, if you go to a chiropractor who knows what they're doing and they're very well versed in the neurology and the spinal cord and aren't making an executive decision to override the fact that you can't turn your head to the left, we're talking a completely different realm and a completely different story. He's looking for the source of the problem. And when he fixes that source by whatever means necessary, and then you can turn your head better to the left or to the right, your body made that executive decision. Your body changed the neurology. It changed the way that muscle functions. That's very, very different than someone forcing it or you stretching it and forcing it, right? You're sending the wrong patterns and you're actually, by doing that stretching, you're reinforcing bad patterns into your brain and spinal cord, right? So your brain is constantly being imprinted upon all day long. Neuroplasticity, and then it's changing, right? If you're sending and imprinting the wrong signals of and or stretching or training improperly or imbalanced, the body gets used to training improperly or imbalanced, and it can adapt so well, but only for so long. So you train wrong, you do this wrong, this muscle doesn't turn on, your body will bypass it. It will figure out how to do what you need to do to finish the task you're asking it to do. But again, is that making us stronger or weaker? We see that in CrossFit all the time.
Sure.
People, a perfect example is a muscle up. People go and they do this muscle up. If you can do the muscle up in very fluent form like a gymnast, we're good. But it's when you break down and you continue to do these reps, like Pavel, right? If you get tired and you can't do it with perfect form, stop doing it. Because every rep you do incorrectly reinforces a neurological pattern in your brain of incorrectness.
Doing it the wrong way, yeah.
The wrong way. You're taking money back out of the bank account. So you might have did 12 great reps and then 30 bad ones. You're 18, you're whatever that is, you're 6 reps. Well, no.
You got it. Yeah.
You would be 18 and minus 12.
You're 18 in the hole. Yeah.
Well, you did 12 good ones. So
you're in the negatives. Yeah.
Either way, you're in the negative. So
that
math.
Yeah. I'm a gym teacher, man. Stop.
So that's why, again, this hamstring then can tighten up, or why you don't force it past there, right? It has to do with the neurology, and it has to do with, again, the body being so intelligent that it knows what it's doing. And anybody that wants to argue with the intelligence of the human body, I think this is a very important topic to bring up just real quick too, is
go for it.
You took a sperm and an egg and they met, and then in 9 months, without the woman thinking about it, you created the most intelligent, advanced being on the planet. You made a heart, you made valves, you made a brain, you made a nervous system, you made a brain that we think we know maybe 1 to 2% about, right? Did all of that without thinking about it once. Only recently have we decided that medical doctors need to be involved in pregnancies and births and X, Y, and Z, right? But you nonetheless created this perfect life. Now, you're telling me you can do that, but when my hamstring tightens up, I need to be smarter than my body and stretch it or untighten it? Which one is it, right? So if you don't subscribe to the fact that the body is an intelligent human being that is constantly adapting to its environment and creating life and advancing itself, then sure, do that. Or you believe that, and you believe in the fact that it created life out of 2 little things and made a miracle, in essence, to our knowledge. I mean, let's talk about breast milk. We have cracked the genetic code of humans. We still don't know what's in breast milk, because every time the baby attaches, a signal is sent through the breast, into the spinal cord, up to the brain, back down, back to the breast, and in an instant, the breast milk changes to meet the needs of the child. Whether that's antibodies, whether that's whatever it is, it changes. So they still don't know what's in breast milk because it changes every time the child's lips attach. And the second the lips of a child attach to a mother's nipple, a peroxide solution is made to kill off any bacteria anywhere around there. Now, if a grown male does that, the solution's not made.
Is that actually true? I didn't know this at all.
Right. There's either an animating intelligence that controls the entire world that knows what's best for you, or there isn't. And it's on it all the time. It never takes a break. So,
some deep stuff, man.
Your hamstring's tight.
Hamstring's tight.
Don't stretch it. You got a really good doctor. Look at Leonard Tommy's thing, and you need to move it, because as you move it, you will re-stimulate the neurology in the right way and do a pain-free motion. And we should probably say that's definitely a whole nother podcast we can talk about.
But, I would have to agree, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, again, talk about the body's ability to adapt. This child and this mother, they know what to do without even thinking in hundreds of milliseconds to provide the baby with exactly what it needs. That's unbelievable. But we want to discard that. We can't. You can't talk about health and not talk about that animating intelligence that literally runs all, that we don't even understand. Or, well, some of us do, but you get what I'm saying.
And I mean, and not to get too philosophical, but that whole stretching, thinking we know better. I mean, that just speaks to the arrogance of us as human beings. We just think we know better, so we do what we want to do, and it is what it is.
And, I mean, again, follow the trail. The guy who came, I don't remember his name, the guy who came out with what? Rest, ice, compress, and elevate?
Yeah.
Like a year ago or 2, he just came out and said, I had it wrong.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. It's just something every human being's doing. Like, I can't even tell you how many times, again, not that I'm claiming to be some sort of exceptional athlete, but, playing football, baseball, a majority of my young adult life, everything. Oh, you threw today? Throw some ice on it. Oh, you got hurt? Throw some ice on it. And now it's just like, oh yeah, by the way, all that bunch of crap.
Right. Like, we only built an entire educational system based off of it. That doesn't work. So think about that when you literally think about everything in life. Like even the conversation we're having. This is as advanced as you and I have. Well, not this, but as we progress through this podcast.
Sure.
And we'll continue evolving because that's our nature. But if that was wrong and everybody just jumped on the bandwagon, we're talking about a little more cutting edge things that aren't necessarily the norm, basically a good thing to follow is if everybody's doing it, maybe you should look the other direction. Like
take a second look. Yeah.
Take a second look. And I think it was, don't quote me on these numbers. I can't remember, but I believe Dr. Andrews is the guy who did Tommy John surgery, the first one. Is that the guy who did Tommy's dad?
I know he's a very prominent surgeon. Right. I don't know if he's the first or, yeah.
Yeah, I think it was him. And I think he came out with a research study that said something like when you're fatigued and you continue to exercise. So again, what Pavel, if you guys don't know who Pavel is, my God, read Pavel. If you don't know, he doesn't, as soon as you can't do it with good form, Pavel's basically like, hey, you need to stop, right? Well, Andrews, I believe, came out with a thing that said that when you get to that fatigue point, you are 3,000, where he came up with this number, I don't know, 3,000% more likely to occur an injury. Well, what is, again, just to jump back, all of CrossFit based on? Taking you to the point where you don't do anything with good form and you're exhausted. No. So everybody is at 3,000% more of an ability to absorb an injury? Or to take an injury? I don't know. So again, the training, the all that stuff, we're finding out things now that these people like Pavel, Tommy, you, me, I don't know, Ripto, just throw these old school guys out there that they've talked about for years and years, and now science is just catching up. So
I think, and that's also, the beauty of what we're doing right now. We're just having like a dialogue of, some of like what we hold true, some of the stuff that we believe. Who knows? Maybe, 10, 20, 100 episodes down the line, we might come across some new information for ourselves and be like, hey, what I said in episode 1, I completely disagree with that now. Like that's the wonderful thing is you can change your mind and you can find new information and you can say, oh, you know what? I'm going to deviate from what I said before. Like you don't just because, and I think again, this is just a part of the society we live in. You say something and you have to be held to it, like hell bent. And so, no, like you can change your mind and you can come across new information and be like, oh, well, this new information makes a lot of sense. So I'm going to actually adapt that into my lifestyle, into my training, into my health and wellness. And, maybe what I said before, with the information I provided, I thought that was correct then. And now with this new information, I'm seeing that there's a better way. Like there's nothing wrong with that.
I think, I don't know who said it, but I'm sure some smart person, because the thought's original, at some point said, like, if you think the way you do when you're 50, like you did when you're 20, you learn nothing in life. Like you've gained no insight. Like you've basically been wasting your life. Like you shouldn't do that. It's interesting.
I was an idiot when I was 20.
Oh,
an idiot. Still an idiot. I'm 30, 31. 31? I'm 31, yeah.
I'm like, how old am I, Chris?
I have to think about it now, yeah.
Yeah. So Darwin is credited with this. I don't know if he actually said it, the give or take, just so everybody. I can't find. I'm not the best Googler, so if anyone Googles it and finds it, put it in the comments. Link and tell me.
We are cavemen.
Was saying this, that it's not the strength of the host, it's not the intelligence of the host, it is the adaptability of the host, which is everything we just talked about. It is your body, your mental capacity for adaptation that will allow you to thrive no matter what happens. And it's very important, again, because we've been talking in terms of if you've been training this way. And I think this is probably a good way to end it and can segue into maybe next week. But
I was going to say, this is a great place to touch home and almost, wrap it up. Because before we sign off, I do want to have a little chat. If this is going to be a thing, and I would love for it to be, because this was a lot of fun, we got to come up with a name. So whether that's like dialogue with Doc or something, I don't know why. I like alliteration for some reason. It doesn't have to be like that at all. but we got to carve out a name or something. And I got a guy who does little logos who made my Racco Strength and Fitness, and we can put a little thing up there. It'd be fun. But
I like it.
All right.
I like it. So we'll do that, but real quick.
Go ahead.
Because we've been talking about building health, right? You put money into the bank account, you take money out of the bank account. So, and we're talking about like training. And if you were to walk into a room with 500 pounds or a lion walk in, like, I don't want to stretch. I want to do it and then walk out like a fucking boss. So you should be able to handle that. So we're in a very unique point in society right now where we have this thing, the so-called virus, that is affecting society. Not that it's not real, but whatever. And they don't have a quote-unquote solution for this, right?
Sure.
Only solution is being healthy. So we are in a unique position because this is the first time in our lives where you've had to answer for all of your life and health choices, all the money you've put into your health bank right now. You didn't have time to stretch. You didn't have time to eat a salad. You didn't have time to eat the grass-fed beef, right? You didn't have time to meditate. Right now, it's here and it's coming for you. Very unique time. So I think that this is even more relevant to let people, especially younger people, know how you train, how you live now.
Build up that bank account.
Reap you rewards later when you're 40, 50, 60, 70, and something like this happens again. You can walk around just like no big deal. Just something to think about.
I think that's a great place to end it. Yeah, man. So we've been doing this for like an hour, man. That's some good stuff. So last like 2-3 minutes. I don't know. Dude, you can like text me some ideas if you want. But yeah, I want to come up with a little name we could do. I'll get my my design guy to kind of throw something up there for us. We could throw it up on the screen when we do these things. But yeah, this was fun. I really appreciate you doing this with me. I hope we continue to do so.
No, I like it. Fun. I've never done anything like this.
Yeah, neither have I. And I did get a text. People did see us, so it worked. So yay us.
That was the biggest thing.
It really was. I mean, I found the platform to do the whole whatever simulcast stream thing, whatever. The biggest thing was just like, I really hope this is going to go up there and people are going to see it, and it's not going to be a bunch of crap.
I couldn't even figure out how to download Google Chrome without my wife. This is a feat of engineering genius that we got on here.
Never has was it Zoolander been more appropriate than the?
No, but I make a mean blueberry mojito. So
I'm gonna have to try one of those one day. But again, man, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. We'll keep this thing going. I'll get in touch. I would like to try to do something. I know you're traveling around, but if we could try to do something as like regularly as possible, like Thursdays at 8 or whatever. But I think next week you're a little wherever. We'll figure it out, and we'll we'll come up with more topics to chat about, man.
We can go all day. I like it.
Cheers.
Cheers. Signing off, guys. All right, I'll see ya.
All right, have a good one.
Bye.
How do I get rid of this thing?
I don't know.